It's my special pleasure to be able to welcome here today, and I know everyone who introduced Beto says this, but someone who needs absolutely no introduction, and that's Beto O'Rourke. The reason he needs no introduction is because he has been fighting for you and me and our rights for so many years, tirelessly. And the reason why we know him is because he has followed us to every county in Texas. He has been rolling out his, can y'all still hear me back? Yeah. And he's not just an amazing speaker, and I can tell you from my own personal experience that he is, but he's also a tremendous listener. And with a politician in this day and age, having a politician that is that kind of listener and engaging with real people like you and me, that's exactly the kind of politician we need. And we're right back here in East Texas. Most recently in April, we saw him in Waco. We saw him last week speak at the Fight Oligarchy rally with Bernie Sanders. We all know him and his message to be deeply inspiring, but also a call to action. And that's a call to action that I hope all of you will do. And the fact that you're here tonight shows me that you are the kind of people that we exactly need in this moment in our country right now. We know that we have so many friends, so much family, so many people we know who are sitting at home despairing, frozen, paralyzed with anxiety and fear, and we need you to go and grab them by the hand and take them up and bring them to our event, to mobilize them, because we're going to need all hands on deck. I'm not only speaking to you in the room who are progressives, who are registered Democrats, I'm also speaking to those of you who voted for Trump, perhaps, but who are starting to have second thoughts. Yeah. Yeah. What is happening in the country now is perhaps not what you voted for. And frankly, you have a right to be angry. You know, he lied to you. And you have a right to be angry, and we would be so proud to have all of you side by side with us protesting and standing up for and defending our health care, defending our VA benefits, and frankly, just defending common decency. Amen. Outside the room who still love Trump, you know, you're also in the right place. Because frankly, we need real dialogue in our politics. Yeah. Now, especially, is the time to voice those, and Beto is the perfect person to hear the response. You know, I was a U.S. diplomat overseas for over 20 years and served my country under presidents of both parties, and I primarily served together with my wife and my children in parts of the former. We were defending U.S. interests abroad, our embassies abroad, in tough places, including two tours of duty in the former Soviet Union, in the former dictatorships, in the former Yugoslavia and Eastern Bloc, and also dictatorships in Latin America. And let me tell you, I have seen firsthand what repression and corruption and and propaganda can do to a country. It can hollow it from the inside out. And trust me when I say, you are right to fear that. You are right to stand up in our country to prevent that. And Trump's tactics, we take it from a diplomat, are really straight out of the Soviet playground. I know what it's like to be a progressive or a Democrat right here in East Texas. You know what I'm talking about. Keep your mouth shut, keep your head down, fly under the radar. And many of us do feel, isolated and alone. And, because of that, sometimes we misjudge and misrepresent our own numbers. I've been looking at maps of the 2020 and 2024 elections, and here in Tyler, especially within the loop, we have outright majorities in many precincts, and even in those precincts where we were outnumbered, we were still 30 or 40% of the electorate. We are not. And Trump's policies are so cruel and so incompetent that he is single-handedly swelling the ranks of our protests every day. It gets more and more. But we're not going to sit idly by while the GOP dismantles our democracy, undermines human rights, ignores the rule of law, denies due process, defunds healthcare and schools, scoops up hardworking neighbors right off the street, takes our government services from us in order to just put more billions in the pockets of billions. Are we going to let him get away with it? No! Right, we have to rise up. We have to rise up in solidarity. And who has been laying the groundwork for that kind of solidarity for years? You guess it. My people have been standing up against the GOP's unrelenting and, frankly, continuing and even accelerating voter suppression campaign. And our movement keeps growing. In April and May, when we were putting together protests like the Hands Off and 8-8 protests, I hope many of you were able to attend. We were tickled if we could get even 120 brave souls to come out and stand with their placards right on Broadway and stand up for our rights. But by No King's Day, 10-fold to over 1,200 votes. First-time protesters, never been at a protest. Many of them, there were so many young people. And those young people were not even just there protesting, they were also there organizing. And many people at those protests were even asking, we're so used to flying on the river, is this So I'll leave you with this. Remember, courage is contagious. Amen. All of you are standing up here to be recognized today, and you are an inspiration to those not here today. And go out and be that inspiration. When we talk about inspiration, when we talk about courage, what better person to inspire that courage than the man in reality we have today? I'd like you all to give a big warm welcome.
thank you for that introduction and for those inspiring words that ground us in the challenge and the opportunity that is before us in these moments. Chairman Garza, for your work, making sure that we are rallying all people in Smith County. Yes, Democrats, it's incredibly important. But I love what Christian just said. The door is open to Republicans, to folks who voted for Donald Trump. In this moment, we will need a true united front, the broadest possible coalition. We cannot afford to write anybody off, nor can we take a single soul for granted. It's all hands on deck for every single one of us. And then the OG, Marilyn T. Bob, who first introduced me to East Texas. We met at an event in 2017 and maybe the end of 2016 in Austin, Texas. And she said, "Hey, Betsy, you got to come out east and see what's going on out here. You know, don't take us for granted." And we did. We showed up. And it was just gangbusters that first visit. I don't know how many people we had. I don't know if it was, these are Donald Trump numbers, 10,000 people. But thank you, each and every one of you, for coming. This is why seeing you right now makes me so hopeful and more optimistic than when I walked in the door. Because, as you know, or you wouldn't be here, this is a very real test. It's a trial. It's a moment of truth for this country. And there is no one who's going to ride to our rescue here in East Texas or where I live in El Paso in West Texas. There is no cavalry but those who have chosen to show up, to stand and be counted right here, right now, today. And if you think about it, 249 years into government of, by, and for the people, may be called the last best hope of Earth, because it is so vanishingly rare on the planet today, and certainly over the course of human history. Try to find another democracy like ours. You would be hard-pressed. And at every major turn, going back to when we threw off the yoke from the British Empire, to when we defeated slavery and the Confederacy and signed that agreement at that courthouse in Appomattox in 1865. To those, I met someone here today who's 89 years old, those of his generation, a little bit older, who landed on those beaches in Normandy on the 6th of June, 1944, to fight fascism. And voting rights leaders throughout the entirety of Jim Crow, from the 1880s all the way up to 1965, marching, protesting, sitting in, being spat upon, being beaten, being killed, being tortured, being lynched for having the courage of their convictions. And a young 24-year-old John Lewis, on the 7th of March, 1965, crossing the Edmund Pass. And bringing America to its senses through the presidency of the first Texan to ever occupy the Oval Office, Lyndon Baines Johnson. 8 days later, after going through the joint session of Congress, every member of the Senate, every member of the House, not there to pass a big, beautiful bill that has $3.3 trillion to deficit, but to listen to his speech, where he reminded us who we are, what we're made of, and where we have come from. He said, as it was at Lexington and Concord, as it was 100 years after that, at that courthouse in Appomattox, so it is today, he said in 1965, that everyday Americans are willing to lay down their lives so that this country can fulfill its promise to itself, to this world, to our generation, and every generation that follows. By the summer of '65, Johnson was able to sign the Voting Rights Act into law, which created for the first time in American history something approaching a true and real democracy. So look, I say all of this not to give you a lesson in American history, because you probably knew everything that I just told you, but to remind you that there are those who came before, and we are the heirs of their service, of their struggle, and their sacrifice. All of it has come down to us. And what we do with this inheritance, whether we squander it forever, whether we make the most of it and pass it on to the generations that follow, that will forever define us in the pages of history, in the eyes of our children, and it will determine what is possible. So, or a candidate, and not because we're against anyone or anything, it's because we stand for the United States of America. When you think about what it's going to take for women and men of good conscience and good faith to win these positions of public trust and power necessary to stop the bad stuff, and absolutely essential to do the good things, it will not be enough to define ourselves by who and what we are against. I mean, I think we all know what we don't like that's happening in this country right now. Sometimes there's virtue in getting stoked up and fired up. And look, as Joe Strummer and Nick Jones in The Clash said, anger can be power if you know that you can use it. And I want to make sure that we do. But I think perhaps even more important is we have to be able to tell ourselves and our family, and our friends, and our fellow Americans just what it is we are for. How we're going to help those who are hurting right now. How we're going to right the wrongs that have been committed in our names. How we're going to pursue these big, bold, audacious, aspirational, ambitious dreams for this country. That's what the United States used to mean to the people of this country and to the people of the world. It's not enough to say who is screwing you and who screwed up, as important as that might feel sometimes. We've got to be able to say how we're going to fix a system that has so badly failed so many of our fellow Americans, including those who are here tonight, and our friends and family, including those who voted for Donald Trump in the last election. So let me lay some of this on you. And then when I close my comments, we're opening it up to you. We have a second microphone. I want to hear what your dreams are, what your aspirations are, the things that you want to see the United States be able to do in the future. Let me start with an issue of life and death. As you know, recently, this country, through our president, went to war with another country in the Middle East, dropping bombs, killing people, perhaps damaging Iran's ability to produce a nuclear weapon. The jury is still out. We don't have the evidence. We're not sure. Is it possible that we have? I guess I hope so. Is it also possible that we provided an additional urgent incentive for Iran to more quickly develop a nuclear weapon so that they can fend off an attack from the United States or Israel or anyone else? We don't know. And as in any war, we know that we can begin them, but there's always an open question about how and when we will end them, and what it will cost in human lives that we take, what it will cost in human lives that we give, what it will cost in the treasure and resources and fortune of this country. That war might last a week, it might last a year, it might last 20 years, we don't know. The Vietnam era veteran who came back from a war that this country made of choice, is not necessary, a war that this country never understood, didn't come back to ticker tape parades, sometimes came back to people spitting in their face. No slap on the back, no let me buy you that lunch. They came back to Tyler, Texas, and to Nacogdoches, and the Longview, and they just got to work, raising their families, starting their businesses, working their jobs, making their communities a little bit better. And I'll tell you what, because I served 6 years on the Veterans Affairs Committee, so many of them are struggling with the effects of that war. Agent Orange that they were exposed to that fucks up their lungs and gives them cancers in their body that have claimed the lives of countless veterans from that era. I mean, veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan who were exposed to the toxins released in these burning pits, and they have no idea what's making them so sick. Why they can't get out of bed, why they can't go to work, why their brothers and sisters are getting sick and dying. And so I think about them when I think about this war, but I can't just be against this war. I've got to be for something. So here's what I'd like to see the United States of America do. No longer turn our back on our friends and our allies, allies that we made through 80 years of hard work, through a world war that really the men and women of the United States of America more than anybody else won and made possible. I want to work with them to end the wars that are already starting, to make sure that we don't start new ones, and to promote peace everywhere on this planet, because it's good for the people of the world, and it's great for the United States of America. We're all on the same page, I hope. We do not want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. We really don't want any country that doesn't already have one to have one, because it just ups the ante and the risk and the threat to the United States and the people all over this world. And so let's take that seriously and not violently, peacefully, diplomatically. Let's figure this stuff out. But what if, I mean, here's my big vision on this one. What if we went a step further? We're all for non-proliferation. Let's not see more nuclear weapons. What if we did something about the nuclear weapons that already exist? I mean, do you think it's okay that any madman, whether it's Vladimir Putin or Donald Trump, has the power to extinguish human life on this planet in a nuclear holocaust? What if we were for a nuclear arms future for America and the world? What do you think about that? And yet, as long as we're talking about the world stage, we really stood for human rights and self-determination for people everywhere. And we were no longer complicit in the bombing and the starving and the slaughtering of people in Gaza, children, families. Convening power of this country to pursue a sovereign, independent state for the Palestinian people. And no longer have to worry about a plainclothes federal agent without a warrant or a badge sweeping you up off the streets illegally without due process. In El Salvador, there would be a life sentence for literally God only knows what, because you never had a chance to defend yourself. The American public never knew what you were charged for. That's about as un-American as it gets. So I would love to replace that with a vision where we recommit ourselves to the Constitution, to due process, to our Constitution. I know this is not a popular thing to say right now, because the conventional political wisdom is, Donald Trump won on the issue of immigration. It's absolutely toxic to talk about it. But you know what, folks? I think if we don't talk about it, we reinforce the cruelty, the incompetence, and the un-American behavior that we see on our streets right now. So what I'd like to see is that we rewrite our immigration laws in our own language. I would legalize every dreamer, every dreamer's parent, every other hard-working American. And if you want to come to this country to work hard, to escape violence, or perhaps certain death, to contribute to the greatness that all of us feel and are talking about here today, there should be a safe and legal and orderly path for you to come. I think most of us and then when it comes to what is ours, I want to be sure that we protect it. There's apparently a plan to take your water in East Texas and ship it out to the Metroplex. Are you all cool with that? No. Just like there have been plans to take your hard-earned money paid through your property taxes from your local schools, convert them into vouchers, and send them to private schools in the Dallas I don't think we as Americans like the government taking our stuff. Whether it's our water, whether it's our schools, whether it's our hospitals, more rural hospitals closing down in the state of Texas than any other state, and most of them that I've seen and visited right here in East Texas. So what if we had a government that instead of taking from those who have for so long gone unrepresented, not been able to hold people to account. We instead ensure that you have the resources to keep those schools open, to reopen those hospitals that are already closed, and protect the water and natural resources of East Texas and keep them right here. But what if you are a teacher or an educator or a staffer at one of these great local schools here in Tyler, anywhere in East Texas? What if you only have to work one job? You get the kids in your classroom all wound up about a high-stakes standardized test. We took that off the table and allowed you to teach to the child. Why is the state of Texas telling you something different? I would love to really see local control mean local control. And I don't think there's anything more local than that classroom, that teacher, and that child. And then on the issue of health, I mentioned these hospital closures. This big, beautiful bill that will add $3.3 trillion with the T dollars to the debt. That means that, you're going to be paying this off. Your kids are going to be paying this off. Their kids are going to be paying this off. It knocks tens of millions of our fellow Americans off of Medicaid. And Medicaid itself is the backstop. It is the safety net. It's if you cannot afford private insurance, you're not lucky enough, or wealthy enough, or inherited enough, then you might qualify for Medicaid, except in Texas, the state that invented Medicaid in 1965, same years we did the ERA, we're the last not to expand it to ensure more working Texans are healthy enough to return to work the next day, healthy enough to finish their education, healthy enough to raise their child. So instead of cutting Medicaid, what if we guarantee every single Texan, regardless of our differences, can see a doctor, receive their medication? And then this big beautiful bill that we're talking about that adds $3.3 trillion, we're really voting on and working on right now, and God, I hope it doesn't pass. This is a continuation of a program and a process that has been running almost on autopilot in this country for decades. Taking the wealth of this country, measured in the trillions of dollars, wealth that you generate at your job, or through your land, or through your own hard work, or through your properties, or through what you, your parents, your grandparents, your forefathers and foremothers have made possible, all that wealth, taken from the vast majority of Americans and sent to the very wealthiest people on the planet today. The reason I'm here right now is that, like you, I was not invited to Jeff Bezos' wedding. The fact that we have people who command this level of wealth, and through it, in our politics, this level of power, not just to buy influence, but increasingly to buy outcomes in our election. Elon Musk, our fellow Texan, spent $250 million supporting Donald Trump in 2024. I don't know if that's what made the difference, but it sure as hell helped him to win, and that's why Musk was given the keys to the kingdom, including your personal, private, social security information, having tens of thousands of federal workers, the entire USAID program, and signing untold number of children in Africa to almost certain death. It's something that we can solve for pennies on the dollar. Absolutely the stupidest thing that I have seen in my lifetime from my government, but it will continue if we don't stop it. So, we know what against that. What is the vision to replace it? What if we took those trillions of dollars and we returned it to the American people? We returned it so that you as well aren't working 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet. The minimum wage in Texas is no longer $7.25 an hour, if you can believe it. That we no longer have nearly half the country working under $15 an hour across the United States. The living wage in America today is something around $21.20. The vast majority are just hustling with everything they can to put food on the table for their kids, to afford that doctor's visit if they can even go to the doctor in the first place, and never mind a vacation, a night at the movies, or a dinner out. It is just not within their reach. But look, we have trillions left over if we did that. How about we direct that to curing cancer in America? Climate change before it is too late. There's a real good we can do. But this is my last part of this vision. What if we had a Democratic Party that actually fought for these things? And I it doesn't bend over, it doesn't tell us the fight is over for again. A Democratic Party that stands its ground, fights on these principles, and wins big elections. And does it not in 7 swing states that are nowhere close to where we sit today? Our party, in that blowout loss in 2024, blew $1 billion plus in 7 states. In those 7 states, the Democratic nominee lost every single one of them. What if we had a Democratic Party that showed up in places like Alabama or Mississippi or the state of Texas? When the Democratic Party comes to Texas, yes, we would love to welcome you to Austin and to Dallas and to Houston. But how about we see you in Palestine, in Pittsburgh, in Nacogdoches, in Longview, in Texarkana, and So I think we need a positive vision, either that one or the one that you will share with me right now, or one that we come up with together. That vision matched with the action necessary to see it through. Because action, that's the antidote to despair. And it is the key to victory. And without it, folks, we're just not going to win. And I don't mean action in 2028, and I don't mean action in 2026. I mean action right now. It means get behind one of these great candidates who already throw their hat in and are running for office, making sure we're meeting the voters on their behalf so we win them come November of next year. It means volunteering for Power by People. Everyone in the yellow vest will sign you up to register voters, and importantly, this is critical. After we register that voter, we ask that voter if we can stay in touch with them. And when we stay in touch with them, we make sure that they get their voter registration card in the mail from the Secretary of State. We make sure that they know the form of voter ID that will be accepted at the polling place. We make sure that they know when early voting starts and when their nearest early voting location is. And we make sure, because we're a partisan organization, that they know who to vote for that matches their values. This state makes it harder than any other in the country. What perverse irony that this state came up with the Voting Rights Act, and it is now tougher to vote in Texas than anywhere else. More polling places closed in the state than any other state in the union. The most vicious form of voter ID, where you can use your license to carry a firearm to prove who you are at the ballot box, but you cannot use your student ID at the University of Texas to do the same. 13% of the mail-in ballots in the election in 2022. 13 out of every 100 cast. That is a banana republic. That is not a democracy. So Powered by People, you sign up with us. Not only will we help to register those voters, we don't leave them to fend for themselves. We help them and walk them and shepherd them through this process until they cast a ballot. Last thing I'll tell you about Powered by People. In 2024, we worked with primarily 18 to 29-year-olds on college campuses, including right here in Tyler. The turnout rate nationally, and remember Texas is always below the national turnout rate. Turnout rate nationally for young people 18 to 29, 42%. The turnout rate for those voters that we registered through Powered by People and stay in touch with, 79%. To go up against the dogs and the fire hoses, to be in prison, in jail, to potentially be killed for registering people to vote, as our foremothers and forefathers in the Deep South and the former Confederacy were in the 1950s and the 1960s. But we are asking you to do something more. then scroll through social media or cast that ballot in November of next year. We've got to get to work. And look, I'm the first to admit that sweating through my shirt, okay, some easy stuff. But you're gonna feel so much better for having done the work. That cold beer is gonna taste that much crisper. That Stanley's barbecue, that much more. I'm so disappointed to know it's close today. So we hope you'll find us in one form or fashion. This moment calls for a positive vision and action to get it done. You all with me? I understand that there was something approaching the town hall. A member of Congress where the questions were screened, they were read by somebody else. It wasn't the way that we like to do things in our organization. So, Cynthia Connell raised her hand. So, Cynthia Connell from my team, you need to get her attention, not mine. If she will find you, she'll hand you the mic. She's instructed me to be brief in my responses to get as many people into this conversation as possible. Y'all, thank you for coming out today.
Not only on the course, but it's my pleasure. Thank you for speaking on behalf of the citizens of Gaza, not letting them enforce the police, but also enforcing that they have the right to be a self-governing nation. So thank you for that. I'd like to also remind you, as you mentioned, international diplomacy and Trump's immigration policy. Many of the people in Afghanistan, our troops and our people, they risk their lives and their families' lives in an act of withdrawal of their country that moves them to limbo. Process and it was impossible to be provided with the paperwork that they were promised or implicitly implied that they would receive to be able to stay in our country. They now find themselves in our country in various means, including the asylum process, and now potential big targets for ICE to be scooped up and sent back to their home homes to serve what they did to help us and this country. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for raising this. We should have a process for people to come here legally, and I mentioned safely, or we will, right? We don't want to see some of the scenes we saw from the last couple of years. That was out of control, all of us can agree with that. But there is a way to do this right. And when it comes to refugees and asylum seekers, who will most certainly be killed or tortured or brutalized or imprisoned for life, like the people who translated for American service members on the ground in Afghanistan, we had to deal with them. We said, look, you're going to risk your life, you're probably going to risk your family's life as well, but we really need your help right now, fighting ISIS and fighting the jihadists and fighting the Taliban. And so if you do that, we're going to take care of you. What message does it send not just to those families in Afghanistan, but people watching anywhere else in the world that we might be involved about what the weight of our word really carries? And so just to do right by them, by ourselves, by the honor of the United States of America, we've got to get this right. You may wonder, what can we do to change this? And I mentioned we got to get organized, we got to register, we're going to win elections in 2026. Brief story on immigration. 2018, you all remember family separation? You traveled 2,000 miles with your little girl. You got to this land that is composed of asylum seekers and refugees and immigrants from around the world. That's who the American people are. And just when you got to your salvation, they snatched that baby girl out of your hands, they put her in foster care, they deported you back to Honduras, and God only knows if the two of you have been reunited. None of us like that. All of us in this room in some way protested, either online or we stood up or we attended marches or rallies in Tornillo, Texas. They constructed a tent city right outside of El Paso, filled with these kids who've been stolen from their parents. And we had a rally there on Father's Day 2018. More than 1,000 people came. It's not easy to get to Tyler. It's really not easy to get to Tornillo, Texas. Okay? 1,000 people came out. We were there to bear witness, to testify to our fellow Americans about what was being done in our name. And I'll tell you what, it changed public perception and the political will on this issue. Within 3 days of that protest in Tornillo, Texas, Trump rescinded the family separation policy. So, as Lincoln said, Public sentiment is everything. We shape it in these King's marches, we shape it in the hands-off rallies, we shape it every time we get out there, protest, and our voices are heard. So let's make sure we do this on this issue as well. Thank you.
Very nice to see you here in East Texas. My question is, with the suspected Department of Education getting shut down and then us having the school vouchers, what should we expect for our children and how can we fight for our children?
Thank you for this question. $1 billion just in Texas, just through Abbott and the billionaires who paid him through campaign contributions. I guess it's legal, but maybe bribery by another name, right? As you all know, in East Texas and other parts of the state, represented by conscientious Republicans who oppose this voucher scam, because they understand there's more than 100 counties in the state of Texas, maybe 100 that don't have a private school to which you can send your child, even if you could afford the difference between what the voucher pays and what the tuition demands at these schools. 150 counties don't have that option. And so when those conscientious objectors in the Republican Party said, hell no, I'm not going to vote for that, Greg Abbott spent whatever it took, billions upon millions, to unseat them and replace them with these lackeys, with these quislings, who will do anything and everything he asks them to do. So that democratic process is something that deeply hurt us when it was corrupted by that big money. We don't have those kind of dollars, but we got to win it back at the ballot box. And the best time to do it is now. Those state representative seats can be won. I know you all know me from losing a couple of elections. I spent my life for the city council, for the U.S. Congress, always against the odds, always against the entrenched incumbent, always against 5-to-1 spending disadvantage, always with the people knocking on doors, meeting people where they are. And we don't have to say, hey, ma'am, I am a Democrat, I believe in this Democratic Party platform, and here's my talking points. Hey, I'm running for office. I came to meet you, to listen to you, to find out what's most important to you, and to fight right alongside you. I have a child in the public school system here in Tyler. I want to make sure she has the best possible education. What do you think? And that person might very well agree with you, and you have won that vote. We've been blinded by money and by modern media and the way that we communicate at a distance, that we can just push a button and that's how we win elections. I don't know if you all follow this young man, maybe you've heard of him, maybe you haven't, Mamdani. Woo! This is the killer issue for those who believe in local schools and public education right now. So for those running for the State House in this room, I hope we get a chance to meet you before this is over, because that's how we win this back. Thank you for asking.
And what I have is, I want to send that to those people in Washington, people that we don't have access to, because our politicians, they come to us when they want to talk to us, but we don't really have any direct contact with them. So let me start by this. If you are not a descendant of someone who is from the miners of the assets, if you're not a descendant of Native Americans or the African explorers who were in California when Columbus came, or you're not a descendant of an enslaved person, then you are an immigrant. You're a descendant of immigrants in this country. Stop the circular blaming on the 2024 election. We keep blaming one or two people. There are many reasons that it didn't work the way we wanted to. Instead of blaming, we need to be organizing. Also, I'd like for them to talk about Medicare and Medicaid. They're not entitlements. They are prepaid earned rewards. Leaders in the House and Senate, our majority leaders, they need to do urgency. When they talk, we're educated, we're talking, we are in a moment of urgency. Our lives depend on it. I know my life depends on it because I know I'm a target in this country. Outreach to communities, we need more outreach. We haven't had people to come and outreach in Texas yet. You could have more outreach in Texas in small communities, not just certain communities, more communities. Our of young people say, what have the Democrats done for us? It's hard to give a list, because we can't tell them sometimes. Also, and they say, well, you know what, I don't need to vote, because they're gonna do what they need to do anyway. We also need to have a plan to fight back the incompetence and the cruelty and what doesn't make sense in the health department. We are all at risk. I have a grandchild and I'm so afraid because we are talking about killing children by getting rid of vaccines and so forth and so on. And last we need to make a coalition. This is a time of urgency because the plan is to divide you on race, divide you on sexuality, divide you on religion, divide you on income. Why? Because just like LBJ said, if you can give people somebody to blame, then you won't notice them in your life.
I don't know if you things to do.
It's really great to meet you. I am a 27-year-old woman. I go to the University of Texas at Tyler, and I have 3 children, and one of them is a girl. It's super hard not to be emotional, but I'm so terrified for my daughter to grow up and not have the rights to her own body. Just keeps me awake at night. I have watched over the past few years alone, just watching my rights as a woman slip away, the rights for my daughter, who she's not going to have the same rights I did, so she's not going to know what she's losing, but I'm watching it. I'm worried that she's not going to have access to birth control. She's not going to have access to a safe abortion. She's not going to have access to those rights to her own body and make the choices that she should be able to make. What are we supposed to do to save our children, protect our young women that are out here like me? When I said I was done having kids at 24, and they looked at me and told me I could not make that decision. I was not allowed to make that decision. I couldn't tie my shoes. I couldn't have that access that I deserve to make the decision for my own body. I am on birth control, and I'm worried one day they're going to tell me I have to get rid of it. And I'm going to be forced to have more kids. And my daughter's going to have these same worries. And it's just terrifying to think that this is the world that we're living in, that we're losing rights as a woman. When we fought so hard to gain them, the right to vote, the right to access to health care, the right to their bodies, to make the decisions we deserve.
Who are raising a daughter as well in Texas. She just turned 17. We've had that same conversation. You know, are we raising her in the right place? Are we shorting her opportunity and perhaps even putting her in harm's way by keeping her in Texas? You all remember, I hope, the signing ceremony for that obscene abortion bill that Ray Abbott signed. One of the reporters said, Mr. Governor, with all due respect, there's no exception for the life of the mother, or incest, or rape. What will you do about that? And Abbott, you know, thank God, said we're going to eliminate rape and incest. And news organization tracked the incidence of rape from the day that he signed that bill, 19 months forward. In those 9 months, 26,000 Texas girls and women were raped and forced to carry the child of their rapists in the state. If Margaret Atwood wrote that in her next book, we wouldn't believe it, except we're limited right now in the state of Texas. But I'm going to give you some cause for hope, and this is what gives our family some hope and why we are staying in this state to fight. I was just in Amarillo, where we had a town hall like this one, and we learned from the people that's supposed to be true at the count, Democrats too fearful to ever tread there. But those local citizens organized when their city council was proposing one of these bans on pregnant women driving on the streets of Amarillo unless they drive into New Mexico and get abortion. It's something that passes south of there an hour in northern Texas. Now, the pro-choice, pro-women, pro-independence, pro your own body, your own business, that side organized, not under the auspices of the Democratic Party, it's organized as people who care about one another, and they won that issue. And in this, I think this is really important. A little more than 50 years ago, abortion was just as illegal in the state of Texas as it was today. But we didn't wait for, or hope for, or pray for somebody here to come and save us. It was Texas women, Jane Roe, Linda Coffey, and from that bright, blue, progressive hub of Abilene, Texas, Sarah Weddington. They put over the all men in the United States to women of Texas who saved the women of Texas and the women of this country. So our message to anyone who's up against them is do not fuck with the women of Texas.
It's so refreshing to hear a politician give a passionate speech without a teleprompter, unlike our president. Also, please continue the fight because you give me hope for the type of Texas that I want to run in. That being said, my question kind of dovetails to the powerful words we just heard. How do we take back the term pro-life from the fascist Christians who don't believe in human development, who don't support Head Start, child care, or the education system that develops that child, because they're more than an embryo, they're more than a fetus, they actually are a human life, and because I support that, it doesn't mean I'm pro-choice, it means I'm pro-life.
Is anyone aware of the foster care system in the state of Texas? It is the worst in the country, probably the worst in the developed world, as I know. More than 100 children, kids, life, have lost their lives in this system. So badly underfunded, completely unaccountable. I don't know if you all have followed Judge Jack, who decision after decision, year after year, she finds the Abbott administration out of compliance with her judicial orders. Look, they're not crazy, they're not pie in the sky, they're just like, please do not let these children die in your custody. And there are kids who sleep in in the Child Protection Services offices, under the desks, on the tables, in the hallways. This is one of the wealthiest states, if not the wealthiest in the country, in the wealthiest country on the planet. There is no moral or political excuse for what is happening. We talked about local schools earlier. We talked about the life of the mother. Maternal mortality crisis in the state of Texas. This abortion ban made it that much harder to see a reproductive health care provider, to get a cervical cancer screening, to get any kind of help at all. And by the way, if you are black and you're a woman in Texas, 3 times as likely to die. That maternal mortality crisis, its epicenter is in this state. So we, the people here today, are the ones who are pro-life. Pro everyone's life in the state of Texas.
There goes good singing again. Outside knocking on the doors. When I got you, and you almost won. You almost beat this bomb that we have. Something that's often overlooked. Now, here you young people say, what is the Democrat Party done for us? How many in this room are on Social Security? Who gave that program to you? Roosevelt and the Democrats in 1935. How many are on Medicare? Who gave that program to you? The Democrats under Lyndon Johnson. So when you hear what is the Democrat Party, they're the ones that have helped the working people and the poor. What has the Republicans done? They've helped the military, industrial, and the millionaires.
90 years ago, you had a little concentration of wealth and power into the smallest number, of the hands of the smallest number of Americans. Every day, working people in this country were suffering. They were going through the Great Depression. We also had the specter of fascism. The American Nazi Party held a rally at Madison Square Garden. It was absolutely sold out. Charles Lindbergh in the America First movement of 90 years ago was ascendant in this country. And how did we meet that challenge? We met that with the spirit that this young man just exemplified. FDR was small ball, not little potatoes, but going for the moon, Social Security, making sure that every working American who lacked a job could find one with the WPA. Well, they could call it socialism, and they did, but it got this country back on its feet, ready to defeat fascism in the Second World War, and to see the most explosive growth of wealth for the middle and working class of the world has ever seen.
Two things I want to keep you guys on. First, people were talking about, life, about pro-life. Let me tell you, God gave us free will, and nobody should be able to take away our free will. I wanted to Congress also, United States Congress in District 1, and I went to the Pride. I went to 2 Pride events. And who are they to take away their rights when God gave them free will? Before our lives, there have been lots of people I know who have been in danger of losing their life. I have a child with autism. I decided to go ahead and have her when a Republican doctor tried to tell me that I could go ahead and have a DNC. I didn't want to have a DNC. I wanted to have my child. But if I wanted to have the decision, if I wanted to have a choice, if my life was in danger, there is no reason that somebody should take away your choice. Nobody should take away your free will. We should be able to keep it. Who are they to take it away? They should not be able to take it away. And also, one thing I want to ask you, because I don't have a lot of money. I have asked, I've gone to the Longview News Journal, I've talked to, and I've sent emails to the TV and all of that, and they will not say anything about me. And I have been in, I have registered since January, you know, and everything. But because I don't have the money, because I don't have the privilege, and because I'm not like the January 6th guy, they were telling me it's too soon, but they made sure that they announced him, but they said nothing about me. So what is your advice to help me, a poor woman, with 2 children? Like I said, a woman out here, but I am fighting for her. My youngest baby, I am fighting for her. I have girls. I'm a woman. I'm a black woman. I am fighting for me. I'm fighting for all of y'all. Because we are all the least of these. All of us are the least of these. We should be caring for one for another. We should be loving each other. We are each other's neighbors. And I don't care who you are. And where you are. I've been through some things, so I know how to fight. What is your advice?
Tell everyone your name.
My name is Masika Akilo Ray, and I am running for United States Congress.
You know, we're talking about, and we're talking about action. You're an example of the action we're looking for. Not easy to run for office. I mean, you talk about your kids, what it's going to put your family through, what it's putting you through, the barriers that you're up against when the local media, for whatever reason, won't even acknowledge your existence as a candidate. So we've got to find a way to help you push through. Now, Chris got some of this amazing speech you just gave on video. We can get that out there so more people can see it, right? I'm glad you introduced yourself to us. There's nothing more powerful, in my opinion and experience, than than meeting those voters who are going to make the decision in your election right where they are. So coming to events is great, but going to people, even better, right? I told you I ran this race against the odds to get some money for Congress. In the Democratic primary, against an 8-term incumbent, outspent us 4-1. We made a virtue of necessity because we couldn't get on the news, we weren't in the paper, we couldn't raise the dollars. We knocked on doors. I personally knocked on 16,000 doors over the course of that campaign. I don't know how many conversations I had. I'll tell you one that proves the point. This was towards the end of the election, and I was knocking on a woman's door, and she invited me in for a cup of coffee. Always drove the campaign team crazy, because you're supposed to knock so many doors, in an hour. And here I am going into her house, having a cup of coffee. I don't think we ended up talking about politics or a party platform. I don't know if she knew that I was a Democrat or a Republican. She was just so excited to tell me about her daughter who taught school, about her grandson who just enlisted in the Marines. We probably talked for 30 minutes, and I said goodbye, and I was on my way. That next Monday, I walk into a diner in El Paso for breakfast. This is close to election day. And this guy comes up to me, he says, "Hey, are you Beto?" And I said, "I am." And he said, "You don't know this, but that woman whose door you knocked on last week, that's my grandmother. Every Sunday, she has me and my 32 other cousins over for the new in the house. And she never seen one of those times to work for you." So,
And they did close my branch at CDC for 2 months. Okay, sorry, they closed my branch at CDC for 2 months. I then went back to work about a week ago. My branch was a branch that worked with STD. So I guess you just close the door and they just all go away. Anyway, but here's the thing is, what do we gotta do to turn this around? I mean, as many mistakes as Trump has made, as bad as Rodney's doing, we should be trouncing him, but we're not. So one of the things that came to mind, I'll ask this question: what did Newt Gingrich do in 1994 besides being a jerk? Well, he cut down the government, but he made a contract for America. I thought that was corny and stupid, but a lot of people don't. So I guess what he, why doesn't the Democratic Party make a democratic pledge to America and list 10 things that you want to do? One would be to repeal presidential immunity, we don't need a king. Let's fix it. There's some first immigration policy to fix it. But one of the reasons the Republicans like immigration and abortion, they don't want to fix them. Education is the same way. They don't want to fix them because it's an issue. Just like he said, the children bill in the House would have fixed the immigration policy, he had that fixed from. But the list those things, because you gotta remember, a lot of people in Texas, nobody in this room, have had the clock in the bottom.
I like this point. We're not going to win political power by telling people what we're against and who we don't like and who screwed up. I mean, we all heard that already. It is what are we for? How are we going to make your life better? How did this 33-year-old, as a 53-year-old, I can almost call him a kid, beat the dynasty of the Cuomo family in New York City? He didn't say who he was against. He never talked about Trump. I don't know how much he talked about Cuomo. He said, look, is it hard for you to get to work? We're going to make the buses free. Are you having a hard time getting the nutrition that you need in your neighborhood because there's no grocery store? Maybe the city will open some in that neighborhood. We'll run it as a pilot. can't afford the rent in the most expensive city in the United States of America. How about we freeze the rent right where it is right now? Now, you may agree or disagree with those issues, but he had a bold, defined plan that everybody in the city understood. Now, and that comes down to me by saying, hey, we gotta define ourselves by what we're for. I shared some of the things I'm for, you all are sharing other things you are for. I think this is the conversation we need to be having. Thank you.
All right, I see a lot of hands up, so we're gonna try to speed it up so we can get to as many, hands that are up as we can.
Hi, I just had two quick things I wanted to touch on, and most of this is for people that might be on the other side or on the fence of things. So for the people that are wanting to take away HRT and TRT for transgender folks, I wanted to eradicate that completely. I just wanted to let you know, I'm cisgender, I have zero intention of transitioning, I'm comfortable with my body and the bits and bobs that I have. I take TRT, I have to take TRT, I take testosterone because my T is too low. My gynecologist prescribed it to me because it's affecting my quality of life. The other thing I wanted to say in regards to our abortion rights being taken away, I have a 4-year-old son. I wanted 2 kids, my husband wants another kid. I want the white picket fence and the 2.5 kids just like anybody else. I had to make the decision of understanding that my son deserves a mother more than I need to give him a sibling. Because I cannot risk him pregnant and not being able to have an abortion and him losing me. So,
You can move from things being statistics and numbers and slogans to people, and you just brought us into your life, and we saw your face, and we put your face to this issue that's otherwise just a headline or a TV ad against the next Democrat. Or on the issue of abortion, it's literally the life and death of a mother or that family, because we know that far too many women in the state of Texas have lost their lives because they can't get the medical care that they need that otherwise would have saved them. So thank you for telling your story. We need more of that as well.
You can tell that you bring us hope during these messes, and we so much appreciate that. But I want to know, with this one that we have, what continues to motivate you? What gets you going out on a hot day like this and cleaning these messes?
Thank you. Well, I knew there was a good chance I was going to see you here today. And honestly, that sounds corny, but I really need that. I find that if I'm home and I'm scrolling through the news or reading about what's happening, I almost feel like I'm a spectator. I'm in the audience. I'm either cheering or booing. It's just so deeply unsatisfying. I want to be in the game. And my sense of what it means to live in a democracy is that there really cannot be any silence. And government of, by, and for the people. Our town hall yesterday was in Laredo, Texas, right next door to you guys. So it was, and the only way to get here and to meet the timeline we have is to drive. That's an 8-hour drive from Laredo, Texas to Tyler, Texas. It's a little bit of a slog. And there's sometimes where I'm out, doing work registering voters at the community college campus in El Paso, the Valle Verde branch. And it's hot in Tyler. El Paso can get to 110, 113. Dry heat, but it is hot nonetheless. And there's some days where I dread going out. I'm like, I don't want to do this. And what if people don't want to see me? And what if there's a confrontation with somebody, or I don't register anyone to vote? But I'll tell you, Mary Lou, without exception, every single time I do that, I come home so much happier. I am in the game. I'm no longer watching it. It's no longer happening to me. I'm part of what it's going to take to happen to it, right? So, I mentioned earlier, I there's so many temptations to despair right now. We really are on the verge of losing this last best hope. It could happen in our life. Every generation before ours, muscle memories has been able to keep it and get it right and keep it on track and sometimes even improve it. I'm going to be damned if we're the generation that loses it. So that motivates me. And then what this young woman just said earlier about her son. I've got now an 18-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 14-year-old that you have met. And, you know, I look at those kids, and they are my conscience. And there will be a reckoning. There'll be an accounting at some point. And maybe they're too young to fully get what's going on now. But at some point, they're going to come back to me and say, hey, Dad, Mom, what did you guys do when all of this was happening? We had a president who defied the Constitution, routinely broke the law, was sweeping up Americans, kids with stage 4 cancer, deporting them to other countries without their medications. Hope somebody was going to do something about it. No, we did something about it. Ultimately, we won today. That's what brings me out here. That's what keeps me going. Thank you.
So I want to know what we can do to make the Democratic Party the inclusive party. We have different, God painted us with a whole bunch of different colors, and we are stronger together. How do we make it? I taught for 35 years. I did 26 years outdoor education. I taught most of the kids in the Tyler area, and I also taught in a minority school, the 97% Hispanic. So what I was thinking about is we get red-baited issues. The Republicans like to throw out, you know, the Democrats are so much against God. No, the Democrats love God. There's a lot of Democrats that believe in, well, Democrats believe in individual freedom, but
We're going to turn down the orange microphone a little bit because it keeps feeding back.
Yes, well, God.
okay. So what I was going to say is we have to be inclusive and get everyone, make it a big enough platform. I understand.
Most atheists are Democrats. So
Okay, I'm sorry. And I also believe that everyone has a right, and that was not my point. My point is that, you know, when they threw out the transgender issue, and that was a big issue for some people that I would never let a male and a female thing. In all my teaching in Tyler, probably 85,000 kids going through the program, I had one transgender kid.
What's the question?
The question is, we need to be inclusive. We need to get distracted. We need to be pulling everyone in.
Yeah.
And you know, in California, they had a competition. We can make locker rooms more private. We can give every child privacy. We don't have to worry about things. Let's make it America for America and include all of us.
Thank you.
I couldn't agree with more. You mentioned religion, and if we're to liken it to a church on this Sunday, we want to be a church that is more interested in conversion than expulsion, right? We want more people coming in and joining us in the work that we are doing. And we don't want to split or divide or separate based on our differences. You know, someone mentioned this earlier, whether it's race, whether it's ethnicity, whether it's gender, whether it's gender orientation, whatever sexual orientation, whatever it is, we want to make sure that we all come together. And as you just said, not all of us are going to hold uniform views. I've been married for 20 years, and every single day I'm reminded of that. You know? And we're not the same. We disagree on things. And that's okay. We're going to stay in this household together. We're going to make this marriage work, right? So I think that there are times, and I understand it, because it is often the groups that have been most marginalized or most vulnerable who've been subject to great amounts of attacks, who are consistent at times, almost in perhaps the language that we use and the way that we talk about this stuff. And I get that, I want to respect that. But I also want to make sure that for those who are having a hard time, sometimes with the times, or understanding something, that we're open to their uncertainty or their confusion. We show some grace and explain and introduce ideas that may be a little bit complex or a little bit hard for people to hold on to. And I think that's the way that we understand and include more people. But I want to say this, because this is important. And I know that this is not your point, and so this is, one that's made outside this room sometimes. That, I mentioned that the immigration has become this unpopular issue, that the conventional political wisdom, Donald Trump won on immigration, Democrats have stopped being for immigration, and just let it happen to them. Whatever happens, we gotta win the next election. That's a sacrifice we're willing to make. The same thing is happening with trans people in this country right now. There are too many Democrats who are willing to throw them under the bus, as though that sacrifice is gonna somehow appease is that those in power, they want us to focus on bathrooms and transgender issues. Those in power want us to focus on these scary immigrants who are coming to get us, who never come to get us, who are only contributing to the greatness and the success of this country, because they don't want us to focus on the fact that right now, in front of our eyes, in broad daylight, in the United States Senate, they're voting to transfer $3.3 trillion of our wealth and our future away from all of us to the people who are already the wealthiest human beings on the planet. How many more hundreds of billions do you need in your bank accounts to be satisfied? That is the 1% that we should be focused on right now.
Very quick. My sibling served in the U.S. Army and is transgender, and they don't have a job anymore, and it's really upsetting. And I thank you for bringing that up just now because that's an important issue.
Please thank your sibling for their service in this country.
The reason I wanted to talk to everybody is because I'm hearing so much fear in this room of what we may need, as opposed to what we want to think. And I want to share my story. My husband and I moved out of the house. He's a veteran, not a big deal. We're excited. Within a few months, I found with my leg. 18 months later, I still can't find work. He lost his job, had to take $25,000 pay cut, and today he had to sign our house away. But also, you're all alone of people who want to be there for their children, their grandchildren, and I'm scared too. I have a 10-year-old granddaughter. I didn't listen enough from her. I just turned 60. What's going to happen to our Social Security we put into all of our lives? It's a scary time, but you bring us hope. And that's what I want to say to everybody, that you bring us hope, all of you, and brought me home today.
First of all, you're incredibly courageous for sharing your story. We want to thank you, your husband, for your service to our country. He is a veteran. You, as a sponsor of the veteran, for sharing your story, which is really tough for us to hear. I've got to think, I don't know what the answer is, but I got to think through all of us here today, there's a way we can help you. So I'm asking Cynthia to get your contact information. We're going to follow up with you, and whatever solution we all come up with, let's share it with everybody and see if there's a way that we can pitch in and help right now. Thank you very much. Thank you.
But I think we need to do a little dirty. And Kamala, all of y'all took it for granted. Y'all aren't Obama. Y'all aren't Obama, okay? Everybody in here knows we showed up for Obama, okay? These same people in here probably voted for Obama, and they probably would have voted for you, and they probably would have voted for Kamala, okay? But a lot of rhetoric was in between. So I think people need to get information. I think people need to do their due diligence. I don't think that we need to be pointing fingers. If it's about merit, okay, I'm okay with merit. Stop asking me if I'm black. Stop asking me if I'm a woman. Stop asking me my age. Stop asking me my gender.
Take those questions off of these applications. They're saying these things, but they're not doing it right. I don't disagree with everything that Trump is saying. I disagree with how he went about it, okay? Because we as a nation, as a group, if we're Americans, then I'm not black, I'm an American. I need white people in this room, every white person in this room, and I know who you are. Stop saying you're white. Stop. You're not white. You're an American. Woo! I want you to win. But if people who are white men particularly are scared that they're gonna get their guns taken away, are scared that the white population is diminishing, all of these things, and they're coming up with this information, this due diligence to prove that this is true, right? How are we gonna combat them getting rid of abortion? Because they want that population to grow. They are purging out Latinos and blacks and all these other people because they don't want the others here. The others are more than the traditional. So we need to get rid of white, black, Hispanic. We need to get rid of those qualifications. Because they're all under the terms of white supremacy, okay? Nobody in here is a racist. Nobody in here is a white supremacist. Nobody in here is a bigot. We have all been conditioned to think that we are. We gotta fix that. That's first. Then we need to work on reparations for black people. Okay? No white person in this room is going to be happy, satisfied, or live in a good future until we fix what the country did wrong first. America, Portugal, Spain, all these colonialistic countries who did all these things to all these people, we need to fix that first. And then we can be Americans. Then we can be happy. Then we can be pro-life. Then we can be pro-choice. We ain't gonna do any of that until we get past that. One more thing. One more thing. I care about you and I want to see you go further. But in order not to be a martyr, you have to stand on business. You have to stand on business. They're not listening to you because you're not standing on business. Don't just appease us, the people who are here in this room. You have to work on those people who are not in this room. They're the ones who you have to go for. Good luck.
These are our last two, right over here.
Thank you for those comments. Yes, next.
Hi, my name is Joe Barker. I live out in Jacksonville. I had to retire a few years ago because of illnesses of my wife. She had breast cancer, and my mother had 2 strokes. So I'm a caregiver now full time. I'd like to thank you for when you stood up after the Uvalde massacre. Abbott had his press conference. It was totally political. And I'm so glad that you went there and pointed that out to them. I really appreciate that. You're going to be running for U.S. Senator from Texas, correct?
Well.
Oh, no, I said, are you going to?
It's kind of like this question. I'm trying to do everything I can to be as useful and helpful as possible. Now, I've described some of what I've been doing with Power by People, some of what we've been doing, bringing people together in these town halls all across the state. You all know that I'm not afraid of a statewide office line. What I want to know, though, is that this is the right and best thing for me to do, not for me and my family. We're all cool with whatever comes next, but it's the right thing for Texas. And this is my theory of the case that I'm going to lay on you all. I appreciate that. But let me say this. You know, when I ran with you all, in 2018, as someone pointed out, gentlemen back here, we were within 215,000 votes, 2.5% of unseating Ted Cruz. Good things happen down ballot. 3 insurgent Democrats defeated 3 incumbent Republicans for the House. For the State House, 12 Democrats defeated 12 incumbent Republicans. In Houston, Texas, someone was just at our meeting there, 17 black women were elected to judicial positions. We didn't win at the top. And in 2022, it was even harder running for governor with the president of my own party in power, and you all knew how that ended. Even though we had the most obscene abortion ban in America on the ballot, even though those 19 children and their 2 teachers from Uvalde were on the ballot, even though we had a governor, this genius, who lives in and demands over the energy capital of the world, and in 2021 couldn't keep the lights on or the power running, and people like hundreds froze to death in their homes, all of that on the ballot, and we still came up short. So my theory of the case is that we need a very strong candidate for U.S. Senate. We need a very strong candidate for Texas governor. We need a very strong candidate for Attorney General, and we need a very strong candidate for Lieutenant Governor. I think we got perhaps a glimpse, potentially a preview of that. If you saw the event that we had in San Antonio, we had this young guy over there, James Talarico. We do not lack for political talent in the state. I think it's a matter of ensuring the right people are in the right positions on the ballot. And then one other thing, this is critical. I think the reason we did so well in 2018 had less to do with the top of the ticket and perhaps what I was doing. In every single state house race, you had a Democrat out there. Every congressional race, you had a Democrat out there. They may not have won their race, but they engaged with voters I otherwise would never have met or won those votes up to the top of the ballot. We won more votes than any Democrat in Texas history. First time since LBJ in 1964, we won a 5 major metro areas. So if we can get someone at every position of that ballot, across the state, down the ballot, I'm very interested in pursuing this. So thank you for asking.
I apologize if I was not able to get to you, but this will be our last question.
All right.
I hate to be last because this is so minor compared to the humanitarian issues we've been talking about. But I have been very concerned about the administration's war on NPR and PBS. Oh, I'm trying to get the truth, the news. And to do that, I've watched CNN and Fox News, and I get whiplash and wonder if they were on the same planet. And I would go to NPR to get the truth. What do you recommend as a credible news source?
So like you, I tuned into NPR. I watched the PBS NewsHour with my kids because instead of like a 30-second soundbite interview, they'll have the subject matter expert talk for 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 minutes. That's an eternity in TV and in our attention span deficit disorder modern age. But I watch it for myself and I watch it for my kids. I want them to know what's going on in the world. I know that they're subject to the algorithms on YouTube and on Twitter and on TikTok, and that's fine. I'm defenseless against it, really. But I want to give them some nutrition in the mix as well. We also know that with the extraordinary consolidation of newspapers and closures of newspapers in the state of Texas, with radio stations that used to offer independent, nonpartisan news just a vanishing breed, with TV stations starting to consolidate or under corporate control, the ability to get independent, factual news, the truth, is incredibly challenging, especially in rural parts of the state. And that NPR broadcast can literally be a lifeline to the truth. When I'm registering students to vote on these college campuses. One of the questions that I persistently get, it's surprised how I heard it, but I get it now, is, hey, Beto, how do you know what's going on? I read the El Paso Times. I watched Dan Rather on the CBS evening. Everybody read from the same set of facts. We have our different opinions. We might have voted differently in the election. But today we're living in alternative universes. And it's hard to bring us together except through meetings like these. And to the young woman's challenge earlier, we have to stand on business. We have to go find people where they are. We have to meet them at their front doors, in their churches, in their mosques, in their temples, wherever they might congregate and meet in their bars and cafes and barbecue shops. We've got to be there because we cannot depend on the news anymore. And lastly, on this issue of proposed cuts to NPR, to PBS, if you care about them, we got to stand up and fight for them. It's not going to happen on its own. But what we've seen is that when the administration feels real public pressure, it forms this political will that can do wonders. Remember Lincoln saying public sentiment is everything. That public sentiment is us sharing our views with our friends and neighbors. That's how we're going to come through. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us.